Hello viewers. Some days back, I published an introductory video where I introduced my YouTube channel with the title Storyline with Pepsi as a channel that we revolve around review of literatures, old and new novels, which some of us must have read some decades ago. So today I bring your way a review of the book Eze Goes to School. Eze Goes to School is a very interesting book, a very interesting African series written by our very own, of blessed memory, Honor Ramzeku, and his British counterpart, Michael Crowder. The book Eze Goes to School was written precisely in the year 1963, making it about 60 years now. I read this book in my first year in secondary school. And being naive and young, I did not actually comprehend the storyline and the message of this great book. So, like I promised you in my introductory video, mine is just to refresh your memory with these classical books, which I believe most of us must have read so many years ago. So, today, permit me to make a review of the book Eze Goes to School. Eze Goes to School is a book, a very interesting book that um, has its setting in the eastern part of Nigeria, precisely among the Igbos of the eastern part of Nigeria. The book showcases the traditions and customs as well as the general culture of the Igbos, which actually forbade boys, children to go to school, basically as a result of poverty and ignorance. So Honor Zeku had wished for a society where education will be valued, where education, the children will have opportunity to be educated, because he strongly believed that education is wealth, education is knowledge, education is power, education is reasoning. That is why he wrote that book at his own time. Now, the book Eze Goes to School tells a story of a young boy named Eze, who was 7 years old as at that time and happened to be the first child in the village of Ohia in the community of Obodo, who happened to um, attend Western education. Now, the book actually starts with Eze waking up very early one morning, attending to his chores, and then set out with his younger sister Olo and other children in the hamlet to go fetching water from the stream. He knew he was going to school that day. That would be his first day at school. He was so restless. So many thoughts came running into him. He was filled with anxiety, with expectation, with fear of the unknown. Imagine how a first day at school might be. And then he eventually went to school that day, having his mother escorting him to a very long distance of over 3 miles from his village to where the school is located. And then after the first day at school, he came home and was very excited. So he shared his experiences at school with his father, Okonkwo Ade. He told the father that there was a girl named Chinwe who happened to be the only girl in the entire community that was sent to school by his parents. And then the father counseled him that he should never allow anybody to beat him in examination. And that if he would be stupid enough to allow his fellow boys beat him in an exam, that he should in no way allow the girl Chinwe beat him in examination. And Eze took note of this and was desirous to make his father happy. And then, while that was going on, something came up in the community. A leopard had just appeared from nowhere and was attacking women and children going to stream, going to farm, and there was a hitch for people to go about their normal farm occupation. Then Okonkwo wouldn't let his family die of starvation when he had so many crops in the farm ready for harvest. And so he had hired four other men to accompany him to the farm. They were armed with machetes, with spears, with clubs, and every other needful implements that they would need. And off they set out to the farm. They had trekked for miles without any sign of the leopard. At a time, they thought that probably the leopard must have left the community to no one knows where. Just then, as they were going through that path road, being led by Okonkwo, the leopard pounced on him, and then the wrestle began. While Okonkwo was struggling with the leopard, his companions, the men he hired with him, took off to the village in the pretext of going to call more people to his aid. And before they could return, Okonkwo had managed to kill the leopard, but not until he was severely injured by the leopard. 2 days after precisely, Okonkwo died. There was much weeping and wailing in the village of Ohia. He had died a brave man, and then the unexpected happened. His brothers wanted to give him what they call a befitting burial, and that would mean that every visible resources that Okonkwo had was going to be used for that funeral. His wife objected to that because the reason being that Eze is in school and will need money to pay school fees, and they will also need money and those resources for their upkeep. But the husband brothers, Eze's uncles, were indifferent. They threatened hell and brimstone and insisted that Eze's mother was just a woman married from somewhere else who shouldn't come to their own family home and then dish out orders to them. And so it went. They exhausted all the resources that the Okonkwo they had and lavished it on the funeral that lasted for over a week. There was much to eat and drink. And immediately after the funeral, that was when sorrows and rancor came into the family. There was no money for Eze to pay his school fees. And Eze almost dropped out of school. Were it not for the benevolence of one of his teachers, Mr. Okafor, who, together with one Mr. Wilberforce Ilo, a soldier that returned from the Second World War, were able to organize for scholarship, which saw Eze through his primary school and also even to college in Onitsha. Then along the line, respite came their way when Eze's brother Olo had a man came to seek her hand in marriage. The suitor came and paid a whooping sum of £40, and this same money was taken away from Eze and his mother by these same uncles in collaboration with some of their kinsmen who felt that the idea of Eze going to school was basically that of his mother and not their late brother. And if Eze must go to school, since that was the wish of the mother, that she should bear the responsibility solely. And that was how they confiscated the £40 that was paid as bridal worth or bride price by the suitor who came to marry Eze's younger sister, Olo. Now, come to think of it, when I recall the whole scenario, starting from how Okonkwo was killed by a leopard, it reminds me of a very similar incident that happened in my community. I came from a community in Omahasad local government area of Abia State. A similar scenario played out in my community some years back. A beast like a bull had also appeared in my community, killing people, killing women, killing children, killing men, people going to farm, people going to stream. And then it was decided that able-bodied men in my community will go out in search of this beast. And so all the able-bodied men came out and they armed themselves with clubs, with machetes, with spears, with every other needful equipment or tools they could lay their hand on, and off they went. They combed the entire vicinity of my community, the forest and the bushes, far and near, even to our boundary with other communities. They combed and searched from morning till afternoon. And just when they concluded that the beast must have left our community and they had decided to, went home, as they were finding their way out of the forest home, one of my kinsmen, the man is late now, named Frank Owunna, is late. As they were finding their way out of the forest, this particular man bumped into the beast while the beast was resting. And then the beast rose up in attack towards him. And this man, being a brave man, out of fear, the machete he was holding in his hands fell off. And as the beast came charging towards him, this man held the beast on its two horns with all the might and all the power he could muster. And then the wrestle began. The beast was flinging this man here and there, flinging this man up and down, and the man held tightly on the horns of this beast. Then his folks, just like what happened in the case of Eze's father Okonkwo, instead of when he raised the alarm for help, instead of his folks to rally around him at least to kill the beast because their strength in unity, their strength in group, what they did was they took their heels home in the pretext of going to call more people from the village to come and kill the beast. Now, as they left, this man, late Mr. Frank, struggled with this beast for several hours until he became weak. And then he said his last prayers because there was nothing else he could do. He just resigned to fate. Let the beast devour him. He never knew that during the scuffle and struggle between him and this beast, as much as he was tired, the beast also was tired. And immediately his hands slipped out of the horns of this beast in tiredness, waiting for the worst to happen. This beast took to its heel. With the flight of an aeroplane, the beast, took off and left our community. That was the last time anything about that beast was heard in my community. And by the time more people came from the village, they saw Mr. Frank, out of the forest heading home. But unlike Okonkwo, who was badly injured by the leopard, this late Mr. Frank, just sustained minor bruises, and he lived to an old man before his demise. Now, what are the lessons from this book? The lessons from this book, if you ask me, I would say that a number of lessons emanate from this book. One is that the same obstacles that confronted Eze during his time, traveling miles, more than 3 miles every day to and fro to school, still confronts some children, in this present era. Some have to trek miles before they can access school. And there are also some communities, there are so many communities around us in our country, Nigeria today, where children have to travel miles, to go to school. Government should fill the gap to, build more schools. That is one. And two, in spite of ignorance and lack of value for education during the time of Eze, another thing why men and women another factor that prevented parents from sending their children to school during the time of Eze was that of poverty. And today I can assure you a whole lot of people in Nigeria are poor. So poor, so much so poor that they cannot afford to send their children to schools. And again, if you ask me, this is where the government equally has to come in. Government, please, should make education affordable in Nigeria. In fact, government should run free education, at least for primary and secondary school. Even in tertiary institution, the education should be highly subsidized. There should be subsidy. Government should put subsidy on education. They should make books, teaching aids, everything that will help teaching and learning, to be better should be made affordable, should be made available. Please, I'm calling on stakeholders, I'm calling on policymakers, I'm calling on government, both local, state, and federal. Education should be given a priority. Education should be given priority. Education should be treated with utmost importance. Education is the difference between nations of the world that have advanced scientifically and technologically and those that are backward. Education brings about scientific discoveries. Education brings about technological discoveries. And with this, man will be able to conquer his environment and use it to his own advantage. Education is a necessity. Education is a need. Education is not a want. So I'm calling on government, both federal, state, and local governments. Please prioritize. Let education be given utmost priority in the scheme of things. Let education be given utmost priority in the scheme of things. It's quite pathetic that today it's commonplace to see Nigerians in schools, across Nigeria, even within the shores of West African sub-region or these African countries. Nigeria is the giant of Africa, for crying out loud. It's quite disheartening to me, disgusting that you go to Ghana, you see hundreds of Nigerians in school, thousands of Nigerians in school. You go to a country as small as Niger Republic, you see Nigerians are there. That is because education in Nigeria is in its lowest ebb. Government should do something to resuscitate education. It's not enough for our leaders to send their children abroad to acquire education. If the level of education, the way they are in Nigeria, if the way education is in Nigeria is exactly how it is elsewhere in the world, like in Europe and America, these leaders will not send their children there. But because they know that education over there is qualitative, that is why they are sending their children to schools abroad. But that will not bring solution. That will not be, because an educated population is an enlightened population. And when the heart is enlightened, you know, it 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 takes away superstitious belief. It takes away ignorance. The heart is illuminated. The mind is illuminated. Even the brain is illuminated. I feel so bad when I see when the Western world try to categorize nations of the world. They say the whites, the Europeans and the Americans are called the Caucasoid. These are the whites. And that their characteristics are that these are the people who are behind scientific and technological discoveries in the world. These are the people, the Caucasoid are the people that have given humanity a lift. Without them, the planet Earth is doomed. And then they said, after that, you have the Mongoloid. These are the Asians, who are fast catching up with the first world, the Western world, in terms of scientific discoveries and technological developments. So those ones are a force to reckon with. And then they identified the third category they call the Negroids. These are Africans. These are the black people. And the characteristics is that the Africans, the Negroids, are the most retarded human beings. People who haven't got anything upstairs, no intelligence, no IQ, no knowledge whatsoever. They are not. They are lagging behind in terms of the black are lagging behind in terms of technology, in terms of science, that they are the worst species of human being that has nothing to contribute. But I know that it is not like that. It is not so. So please, I'm calling on policymakers and stakeholders. Education in Nigeria need attention. Need urgent attention. If you go to some most schools, especially in the rural areas, children are meant to sit on the floor while they are receiving lessons. A class that is supposed to take 30 or 40 students will have over 100 students seated there. The same thing, even both secondary and tertiary institutions here in the country. Such atmosphere is not conducive for learning, for teaching and learning. It's not conducive at all. Nigerians have got everything. Black people, the black race, Africa generally as a continent, we have got the brain, we have got the knowledge, we have got the intelligence, comparable, even more than those of the Western world. After all, civilization started in Egypt, in Africa. And the history of civilization tells us that their inventions were unprecedented. Those inventions that took place in America, we have learned about the North culture, we have learned about the Egyptian civilization, which happened here in Africa. All those discoveries were unprecedented, and they were out of independent inventions. Nobody taught them. So if there's anything, the white man came here and learned from Africa, but then went home and improved upon uh, the knowledge. That is the difference between them. So if our educational sector should be given the utmost attention and the priority it needs, I believe that we will get there. So please, viewers and listeners, I've just given you a review of the book Eze Goes To School. Please thumb up this video. I beg of you, subscribe to this video. Share, like it and share it. Subscribe, please. I beg of you. And until I come your way next time, I remain yours sincerely, Pepsi. Thank you.